Hello, this is Miss Jackson. I was going to make the final video for the geometry test review. This will cover problems 9 through, I think it's 12 or 13. Question 9 says, which of the following figures has a perimeter of 26 units? We started off learning about perimeter at the very beginning of the geometry unit. Perimeter is the distance around a polygon or a shape, and to find it, all you have to do is add up all of the side lengths for a particular shape. So we'll start by adding up this pentagon on A here. We know 4 and 4 is 8, 8 and 8 is 16, and then we'll tack it onto that. 16 plus 8 is 14, 2, 3, 27. So the perimeter of this shape is 27. The next one we're going to add together is B, and this is a trapezoid. We're going to add the two sides together. That's pretty simple. 10 plus 12 is 22, plus 4 equals 26. Let's check C. Let's see how many sides are on C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a six-sided shape, which is a hexagon. Now, it doesn't look like a normal hexagon. This is an irregular hexagon. Let's start adding this together. 5 and 5 is 10, plus 2 and 1, that makes plus 3. That's 13. Plus 7 would be 20. Plus 4 would be 24. Okay, D is one that will trick the kids up, but we have worked a ton on it, and for the most part, we're pretty good at knowing on a rectangle. When they only give you two side links, you have to label the other two sides before you can find the perimeter. So if the top has a measurement of 18 units, the bottom will be 18 units. If the right side has a measurement of 8 units, the left side will be 8 units. And now we need to add those together. Okay, so the 18 and the 18 together is 36. 8 plus 8 is 16. We need to add these two together. This has a perimeter of 52, which is way more than what we needed. What's going to get the kids here is oftentimes they will forget to label the other sides, and they will add 18 and 8 together, which would give you 26, and that would cause some confusion. I'm going to bet a lot of kids that miss this would miss it because they picked D, which would not be correct. You have to make sure you label all the sides before you add it together to find the perimeter. So here we were looking for the one with the perimeter of 26 units. The only one that fits that is going to be B. Right. Let's move to 10. The perimeter of the figure is 70 inches. What is the length of the missing side in inches? We've worked on this also. How do you find a missing side length if you have a known perimeter? And to do that, step 1 is going to be add up what you know. So in this case, we know one side is 16, one's 29, and the other is 16. Let's put those together. 16 times 2, because I have two 16s here, is 32, plus 29 is 61. 61 inches represents the three sides that we just added together. 61 inches is not going to be the missing side length. That tends to be where we get a little bit confused. We do this part of the math and we stop without thinking about, okay, what does 61 represent? It represents what we've added together. There's another step here that we have to take if we want to find the top, and that is we take our known perimeter, which is 70, that's our total distance around the shape, and we subtract the parts we know, the three sides that we know. The answer would be 9. To check it, which I always encourage them to check, we're going to label the top with a 9, and we're going to go back and we're going to add all of the side lengths together. When we do, it should total 70. If it does not, we've made a mistake somewhere. So we knew that the three sides that we started with totaled 61 inches. If we add our 9 inches on there from the top, we're at 70 inches. That means we found the correct answer. The missing side length is 9. All right, let's move on. This question has 2 parts. Two-dimensional figures are placed into groups, Group Y and Group Z. Complete the sentence by selecting the correct answers. Group, and this, I'm just going to try to highlight it. Question type is a struggle because we've never seen anything like that before 3rd grade usually. On the actual test for the unit test on geometry, there is not a question that is set up like this because it's rare to find one of these question types on our software that we make the tests in. However, there are questions like this on the STAR test, and so I try to include it whenever I can in class so that they're familiar with it. It's really a fill-in-the-blank question. So where it says group 11 has a 12, well, that makes no sense. What this means is whatever's going in this blank is coming from question 11. Whatever's going in this blank, the answer comes from part 12 or question 12 of that. And you have to fill in things that are going to make this a true and correct sentence when it's done. I find this to be very confusing. I really wish we didn't have question types like this. I feel like the kids know the answers to these questions often. They get a little mixed up on putting the right things in the boxes because it's a little bit of trial and error. So let's read this. The best selection is Group Y or Group Z for the first blank has a rhombus, trapezoid, square, triangle, rectangle, or trapezoid, or rectangle, trapezoid, and pentagon. Well, I see that they're naming shapes here. So what I'm going to do is go back to Group Y and Group Z and name the shapes in it. This little shape right here is a concave quadrilateral, not a name that 3rd graders have to know. What they do need to know, though, is this has 4 sides and 4 vertices, so it's a quadrilateral. Group Y is obviously a rectangle. It is also a type of quadrilateral. A rectangle is a quadrilateral. It's also a parallelogram because it has 2 sets of parallel sides and 2 sets of congruent sides. So the top and the bottom are parallel and congruent to each other. The left and the right are parallel and congruent to each other. The top right shape is a trapezoid. Trapezoids are also quadrilaterals because they're 4-sided shapes with 4 vertices. It is not a type of parallelogram, though, because it only has 1 set of parallel sides. Okay, so that's Group Y. Let's move on to Group Z. Here we have a rhombus. A rhombus is also a quadrilateral, also a parallelogram, a square. And here are all the great things they need to remember about squares. Squares are quadrilaterals, they're parallelograms, they're a special type of rhombus, and a special type of rectangle. So sometimes on the STAR test, there will be a question that says select all of the rhombuses or select all of the rectangles. And if there's a square in that picture, they need to select that also. Last shape down at the bottom is another trapezoid. It's a trapezoid and it also fits under the quadrilateral heading in the family. Okay, so Group Y. Does Group Y have a rhombus, a trapezoid, and a square? No, it does not. Does Group Y have a triangle, a rectangle, and a trapezoid? Well, no, none of these have a triangle, so we're marking that out altogether. Let's try, does Group Y have a rectangle, a trapezoid, and a pentagon? No, it does not have a pentagon. In fact, there are no pentagons in either group. So that's going to take that out of contention. We said Group Y does not have a rhombus, trapezoid, and square. However, let's look at Group Z. Group Z, it has a rhombus, it has a trapezoid, and it has a square. So what we're going to fill in is Group Z. Group Z has a rhombus, trapezoid, and square. That is what makes that true. Again, these questions take a lot of work because you have to stay very organized with your thinking. They can be a bit tricky. And I would just say start with what they're asking you down here. Go label your shapes. Once you know if that's what they're asking about shape names, go label them. and then just go section by section, see what can I mark out. Like down here, we marked out B because there are no triangles, so that could not fit at all. We marked out C because there are no pentagons in either group, so that's not going to go with anything. That left us with the best selection is rhombus, trapezoid, and square, and all we had to do was figure out which group had a rhombus, a trapezoid, and a square. Okay, on the test, this question, I think I changed it out for 2 questions that have to do with polygons, things like, I can't remember exactly, but which one is a quadrilateral, or what makes a quadrilateral, what makes a polygon. Polygons are any 2D shape that has 3 or more sides, is closed, completely enclosed, and all the sides must be straight. That is what makes a polygon. So triangles, any quadrilateral, pentagons, hexagons, any shape that is flat, enclosed, and has only straight sides. It cannot have a curve. So things like a circle that we often think about as a basic shape is not a polygon because the side is just one big curve. Okay, 13. Gina planted a rose garden and with 2 rectangular sections as shown below. What is the total area of the rose garden in square feet? So here we're looking for area. Area is the amount of space a shape takes up. We learned area right after learning perimeter, so we've worked on it for a while, but still what happens is I will have kids go label side lengths and add it all up, and they do a wonderful job finding the perimeter of all the shapes. They have to be careful and know that area is the inside of the shape. Okay, there are several ways to solve this. I'm going to show you 2 of them. Number 1 is to take this composite shape, and a composite shape is a shape that is made up of 2 or more shapes being combined, and find a sensible place to break it apart. And then what you can do is find the area of each shape on its own. So this top rectangle, it is 1, 2, 3, 4. It has 4 rows, and then going across the top, to find out how much it goes across the top, we would have to extend our lines up. So here we go. It's 1, 2, 3 columns across the top. So the measurement for just this rectangle, is a 4 by 3. To find the area, we can multiply 4 times 3, and that equals 12. And so this rectangle, just this rectangle, has an area of 12 square units, or in this case, it's square feet. I'm going to keep that over there. Let me use a different color marker for the bottom. We need to find the area of the bottom rectangle. And again, we can just number the rows. There are 3 rows. And if we go across the bottom, 7 columns. And so what we have is 3 times 7 equals 21. To find the total area, we need to combine the 2 areas that we found for both rectangles. So 12 plus 21 is 33 square feet. That is going to be one way to find the area of this shape. Because it's a smaller shape, some of the kids are still more comfortable with gridding out this entire thing carefully, and then just counting the squares. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And counting all the squares like that, and that still gets you to that 33 square unit answer. That's fine on shapes that are not too big. We've had some, though, where the composite shape was huge and the answer ended up somewhere in like 297 range. That is not going to be a shape where you want to use this method where you have tried to grid out and count every square, because there are 297 chances to make a mistake. So if the shape is small enough, then draw the lines and count the squares. That's fine. But as they get older, especially, they're going to need to know how to use that length times width or rows times columns formula that we did the first method of solving. And really quickly, while we're on this, I would like to show you the number one mistake that kids make, and it is this. They count the rows. They go across and count the columns. And they say, oh, this is 7 times 7 equals 49. And luckily on this review, they didn't give you 49 as an answer, but I will guarantee you if this was like a STAR test, 49 would absolutely be an answer. Or if this was not a multiple choice and it was a fill in the blank, then a whole lot of kids are going to put 49 in there. Unfortunately, 49 would be the answer if this was a complete square, but because this section is missing, we can't do 7 times 7 because it isn't 7 rows across the whole thing or 7 columns across the whole thing. We have to break this apart and find the area of the smaller sections that we break it into. It's decomposing shapes just as we decompose numbers to turn things into manageable chunks. Okay, that is the whole test review. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and to let me know. My ending tips for this would be know how to identify shapes, specifically what makes a polygon, what makes a quadrilateral, what makes a parallelogram, what quadrilateral is not a parallelogram, which would be a trapezoid, and that weird concave, pretend that's closed, and those are all perfectly straight sides. Concave, quadrilateral. So they need to be able to identify those. On the 3D shapes, they need to know how to identify the attributes of a 3D shape, things like how many edges, how many faces, how many vertices, but they also need to be able to identify specifically which shapes are pyramids and which ones are prisms. Prisms usually show up a lot on the test. It's like select all the prisms. And a prism, as far as 3D shapes is concerned, is any shape with two bases that are congruent and opposite of each other, and then the side faces are always rectangular on a prism. A pyramid has only one base, and then all the side faces come up to a single point, and you can only have one single point at the top. So that is what I would take away on the 3D shapes. And then they just have to be able to fluently move things into groups in and out, which groups belong together, which don't belong in this group, things like that. Area and perimeter is also important to know the difference between the two. If they can remember, oh wait, perimeter is the outside, area is the inside, they're usually good at finding those answers. They just sometimes do the wrong one. They'll get the two mixed up. That's all I have for this. Thank you for watching. If you are, if you're one of my third grade friends, especially thank you for watching. You guys have a good weekend and just let me know if you need any more help.